Hi, Dan.
Hey, Michelle, welcome back. Good to see you again. I love our virtual recording studio here. We've been productive today, so
Yeah.
I love it.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited that we are talking about the session 2 of CBT-I, part 2. And I'm really curious to hear from our listeners what they thought about our little interlude of more, mindfulness and more breathing and more self-compassion between the last episode and this one. So
And it's our 100th episode.
woohoo! Congratulations to us and all of our listeners. Like, I actually believe there's several of you that have been from there from the beginning. So you should
Thank you guys for hanging with us.
absolutely, yeah, especially through the challenging audio years. Where
The last episodes, the challenging audio.
we did, we had several different like eras of experiences. So, and even pre-video, now we're trying video stuff. So look at us. Wow. Adapting, growing, and changing.
Yeah, and we asked you a couple episodes ago to let us know if you like doing video or you just like hearing us on audio. How do you listen to us? If you can email us at the sleeptakeout podcast at gmail.com,
Mhm,
sleeptakeout@gmail.com,
mhm.
or send us the fan mail on the Buzzsprout at the bottom of the description, or put a comment in YouTube. Hey, I'm listening and I'm in YouTube and I really like it on YouTube. Just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you've discovered us newly on YouTube, welcome. And those of you listening to us in their podcasts while you're driving your car or doing anything else, like, thanks again for getting us to 100. I feel like we need like a little like celebratory cake thing.
Well, at Podfest, we picked up our 100th episode pins
We,
that we can now, post up somewhere.
we did. We did. I know. We should find, we got to celebrate. I don't know how, but happy 100th episode. So, all right. So today, I want to review one thing before we dive deep into part 2. I did get a new heart rate monitor because this one's it's a Polar H10. It's on Amazon, and I will say, so I've used it a few times. So I can't remember if our listeners have followed us before, but I'm a fairly consistent Peloton person. And when you spin on the bike with the heart rate monitor,
So, what's your Peloton name so we can all follow you?
it's actually my social media name, so you guys can find me. Follow me on Peloton. So it's Daniel Baughn, PhD. So if you're on Peloton, friend me, follow me. Like, and my profile is visible, so you can find me that way. Um, the interesting thing about Peloton, like socially, is you can only high five if you're like in the same class together, but you can follow each other. So, but uh, but
I
yes,
don't even think I'm following you.
you're not. You should.
I don't think so. I know. I have to add you.
I know. You should. You definitely should find me. Daniel Bond, PhD. But you can search by name too. They changed that in the directory. You used to only be able to search by usernames, and now you can actually search by names, but you can still be anonymous if you prefer to be.
Oh, I can see you. Okay. You've done 765 workouts. Great.
Yeah, I'm trying. It ebbs and it
So I can
flows.
I can friend you. I can friend a Daniel Vaughn, a Daniel Knott, and another Daniel Vaughn.
You should friend them all and then see who you like.
Well, so the other one only has 2 workouts, so that's good.
There you go. A lot of people, I find Peloton's an interesting community. Like, I would be curious on their internal metrics, who starts it and then who fades away. Because there's definitely people that I've seen on there that were active for a year or two and then they just kind of disappear. Um, and I would say that definitely, so this is what leads me to why I got a new heart rate monitor, is there's definitely things that influence, your habits. And we've been talking about, making healthy habit changes, whether it's sleep, whether it's, physical activity, whether it's, healthy eating, those types of things. And it is challenging to maintain a habit continually in the longer term. And a key part is to try and make it as convenient, as accessible as possible to you. And one of the reasons why I had to get a new heart rate monitor is because the one that I had was a Peloton one, and it stopped working. Or here's the part that really bothered me: sometimes it wouldn't connect at all. The other times is that it would record my heart rate being so low that my calorie burn was not accurate, which I was like, yeah, this is not, like, I would be like sweating, and it would say you're still in zone one, and I'm like, no, like I'm not in zone one anymore. Um, So why this is relevant from the whole, like, habit related piece is that, um, what I kind of really enjoy is I kind of enjoy setting my own metrics and my own kind of calorie burn part. You have to recalibrate every once in a while because your body gets more efficient. So even if I have to do a 30-minute class, like my calorie burn can fluctuate because if your muscles are more, you know, refined or I guess they're built up more, then you're actually kind of you exert less energy to maintain the same kind of, pace and intensity, which is again that paradox of exercise. So anyhow, all that being said,
When you finally graduate to the Apple Watch, it pairs up with Peloton very nicely.
I've heard, and this is my next thing. Although I've also heard that, so I would like to compare the heart rate monitor, which I have. It's a chest strap one, which I will say I like the Polar one versus the Peloton because it is a rubber based kind of chest strap. I mean, it's also like elastic nylon and other parts, but the other part is rubber because you do have to have it has to be moist in order for the heart rate monitor to read your heart rate accurately. Meaning you either have to sweat into it or you just wipe it with a baby wipe when you put it on.
Yeah, I don't know. As like a female, it's just not my thing.
They're not the most comfortable, I'll be honest. Like, yeah. The only reason why I've kind of enjoyed it is because I know it tracks that calorie part, and then you can connect that to then the intensity of the actual workout. So the bike that I have will auto adjust, and it'll auto adjust also based on where I'm at in that workout piece. So and the heart rate influences that. So anyway,
It's kind of a good segue into our talk for today.
it is. So sorry, long-winded way to get on that. We're gonna talk about stimulus control today, and we're talking about the CBT-I session 2, part number 2. And Michelle, when you hear the word stimulus control, like what do you think of? Like what comes to your mind?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is step with on and off buttons.
Yeah, right. Like you're like stimulus control. Like what is this? This is some sort of like well, you might even think it might sound a little Pavlovian, which to be fair, it's connected. So there's definitely some pieces to that. What's really important about stimulus control that I would say that that I go over this with a lot of my clients is this is really thinking that isn't necessarily conscious learning, if that makes sense. So you're not consciously aware of the things that are happening when it comes to, the things that we're going to change, but you learn to recognize them over time, just like we're going to make some changes. Um, so important parts of that about this is conditioned arousal. And I want to give a definition here just because this is relevant. So conditioned arousal is learning that occurs without conscious awareness. Let me rephrase that another way. Learning that you don't realize is happening. And what's important about this is conditioned arousal has been negatively impacting your sleep and you haven't been aware of it. If I have a little mic drop
So,
emoji, I would do that right there.
I mean, so I call this a lot like when you're watching TV that you're in zombie mode.
Hmm.
So there's stuff that's affecting you, which you feel is not affecting you, and yet it is affecting you in a not good way.
Yeah, totally. In a way that's not helping you, actually, in a way that's actively hindering your sleep.
And
And
that's why I use a zombie thing as opposed to some nice cuddly like other analogy
yeah.
because it's almost hijacking the whole system
Hmm.
without your awareness of it.
It really is. And I want to give a quick comparison from how conditioned arousal kind of works or really how conditioning works from both I'm going to use Pavlov's dog as an example. And so you can see how the same thing is happening to your sleep, whether you're realizing it or not. And you can use this same thing with like your cat and a can of tuna fish, if you've ever kind of noticed that piece before. But so step one here, I want you to imagine a dog that drools when it sees food. Okay. The animal does this kind of automatically. And the dog does not need to be trained to perform this behavior. It just simply occurs, right? Like you, the dog, or you, which these same things happen for you too. But the dog sees the food, starts drooling. The food is the naturally occurring stimulus. And if you started to ring a bell every time you presented the dog with food, an association would start to be formed between the food and the bell. So that really step four here, eventually the bell alone, which is the conditioned stimulus, would come to evoke that drool response. A lot of times I can say clients have told me about this when they open a can opener or the sound of the can opener and their cat comes running into the kitchen. And it's usually because again, that sound of the can opener is the conditioned stimulus. that evokes the cat kind of, the cat knows it's about to get something really good. The parallel to sleep is this one. So imagine that you feel sleepy when you lay in your bed. Your body already knows how to sleep automatically. Your body does not need to be trained to perform this behavior of sleep. It just occurs naturally. So your sleep is the naturally occurring stimulus. And here's where it kind of goes a little bit haywire for people that have sleep difficulties. If you started to feel tension every time you saw your bed or discomfort or something along those lines, you'll start to form an association between that tension and your bed to where eventually the bed alone, aka the conditioned stimulus, starts to evoke this tension response. So this would be your bed, your bedroom, essentially everything. And the important thing about this is it's not necessarily this tension as negative per se. The tension can be alertness too. So it's all of these things combined that really makes it to where pretty soon you start to learn to associate, tension with bed and being alert, tension bed alert, tension bed alert, tension bed alert, where pretty much the bed, bedroom, you're alert. You're no longer sleepy. You're no longer tired. And the reason why pairing your bed and your bedroom with tension and frustration shows up is because essentially your bed and your bedroom turns out to be a cue for alertness. So this was again learning that was not consciously aware of. You didn't know you were actively doing it, but it's there. It's been there fairly consistently. The nice thing is what can be learned, you can learn new things over it. You can't forget old things entirely because they do randomly pop up again. But you can do new learning on top of that. And the key way to do this is to address stimulus control, which there's 5 key parts of this. And we're going to talk about briefly. I know we've got over some parts of this and more in-depth episodes, and we can always go over more of these later too. But the first one here is going to bed only when you're sleepy, not just fatigued or tired. What do you think about that, Michelle? Going to bed when you're sleepy, not just tired.
I think that this is a huge problem in people that have sleep difficulties is they've just kind of decided that they have a bedtime, whether or not they're tired or not, whether or not it's even their own bedtime. It could just be a bed partner's bedtime or a child's bedtime. And all of a sudden now that becomes their conditioned behavior and they are not sleepy.
Yep.
So then they want medicine to make them sleepy so that they can bow down to that conditioned response of getting into bed.
Yep. Bingo. I would say another one too. A lot of my clients are like, wait, there's a difference between being sleepy and being tired. I thought they were the same thing. Like,
Hmm.
don't you want to be tired when you're sleepy? And here's the reason why there's a key difference. Sleepiness is like being on the verge of dozing off and you're struggling to stay awake. Tiredness is when you might have low energy, low motivation to stay awake, or you might even feel bored. Like that is tiredness. So if you're hopping in bed just because you're ready for the day to end and you're done with it, that's conditioned learning that's going to set you up for the wrong way. All right, so that's number 1. Go to bed only when you're sleepy, not just when you're fatigued or exhausted, tired, or bored. Um, Number 2 here, if you're unable to sleep, get out of bed and return to your bed only when you're sleepy. Michelle, why is this important?
It's what you were talking about, that conditioned response being if your bed is turning into that conditioned response and it's now becoming the place that you're the least likely to sleep
Mhm.
and you spend more time in there, it's like little bit of time out,
Mhm.
It's a negative association with something that you want to associate positively with sleep. So you have to remove yourself from it.
You got it. Bingo. And a key differentiator here, again, people that have sleep difficulties are what these rules are relevant for. I would say a lot of other people that aren't dealing with insomnia, they might, make their bedroom their own personal spa like experience, right? And you go in there and the lighting is amazing. It probably has its own signature scent and then all these things and you're like, well, who wouldn't want to spend more amazing time in my spa retreat of a bedroom? And I would say, good for you. Like that sounds like an amazing bedroom. Like I wish mine was like that. It's
Yeah,
No,
this fear that kind of comes up for people that if they get out of bed or do anything else and remove themselves, that they won't be able to get back to sleep. What do you do with that?
yep, we're gonna come into that. So this is where the part. So I want you to make sure if you're unable to sleep, get out of bed and return to bed only when you're sleepy. The key things are if you start feeling that sleep is not about to happen, I want you to get out of bed. Or if you start to feel frustrated, I want you to get out of bed. And for most people, a good rule of thumb is about 10 to 15 minutes. If you have not fallen asleep, get out of your bed, get out of your bedroom.
And so what I tell people, because I tell them absolutely no clocks, so they can't use the 10-15 minute rule, is if you can say your ABCs more than twice.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like the number 2, you can pick the number 3, but basically like something that doesn't take that long. And if you can do that and you are still not sleepy, then you remove yourself from bed. It ends up being quite a bit shorter than 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's important because some of that anxiety that goes into leaving the bed is that you won't have enough opportunity left to sleep when you're ready.
Yep, you got it. And things that you're gonna do when you leave your bed in your bedroom. Michelle, we had a whole event about this a couple months back where our tired but not sleepy bags, baskets, things like that, which we had a lot of great turnout for. And it sounds like we're gonna do again at some point. So we've already had some people drop off things for the next kind of tired but not sleepy basket idea. Um, so again, I would say go back to that. Well, actually, we've talked about these things before. There's a YouTube interview where I've talked about a tired but not sleepy basket as well. So if you need ideas of things to do in that, gosh, we've covered that in depth. But there's lots of things that you can do, not in your bed, not in your bedroom, when you need your own tired but not sleepy basket. Okay, of things. All right, number 3 here, use the bed in the bedroom only for sleep and sex. What does this mean, Michelle? Like, why do you think we only want to do sleep and sex in the bedroom?
You keep asking me the same thing, and it's the same answers, is you don't wanna condition yourself to be awake and doing other things in that bed. So, TV watching in bed, eating, in bed, playing games or scrolling social media. Remember, these things don't end, they're not just finite, and so they can go on for a long time, and they put your brain into that zombie mode.
Yep.
There's a couple exceptions to this. Anything but sleep or sex should be in the bed. It's like those breathing techniques that we were talking about.
Right.
There's some of that progressive muscle relaxation. So something that can again take somebody who's tired and potentially turn it into sleepy.
Hmm.
But if you do any of those types of things, you got to be real careful not to let it just extend the amount of time. So again, my vote still is hold fast to the premise of nothing besides sleep or sex in bed. If you are tired and not sleepy, get out of bed. And those same types of breathing techniques or those behaviors, you can do somewhere else, not maybe even just with your feet on the floor, where you're not laying in bed with the intention to sleep. When you get sleepy, you can easily get back into bed.
Yep. I would say another kind of caveat to this kind of guidance is if getting out of bed for you in the middle of the night is physically unsafe in some way, and then you'd want to talk with your healthcare provider about a way to kind of about navigating that. I've had some clients before. We've talked about finding them an alternative location in the bed, um, or the bedroom. Sorry, not the bed, but in the bedroom. But I would say, generally speaking, what this means is no reading in bed. So, just like what you're saying earlier, Michelle, no scrolling the internet or social media on your phone. It's no Amazon shopping in your bed, no television watching, no checking your Apple Watch in bed. In fact, I think you should remove your Apple Watch. Eek. I know a lot of times people are like, what? It gives me like the greatest sleep ratings. And I'll be like, your Apple Watch is not getting you better sleep. Like I know you might really enjoy it. I love it too.
But remember, we also know that you're going to break every rule that we say. And so when you listen, it's like, just try it. Again, it might be that cue to you that this is absolutely it's getting your sleep better. And then you say, you know what, I really want to have a more of an idea because I'm not looking at a clock. There are ways you can tame your technology, like in particular the Apple Watches and Fitbits. You can turn it into a cinema mode where you actually have to do some behaviors in order for you to turn it on so you can see it. Otherwise, it will be completely dark.
Yeah. Honestly, great mention of that. It's like you're at the movies. You don't want your phone dinging you or your watch buzzing for you or anybody else when you're at the movie. That's bad. Like you want to be able to enjoy the movie just like you want to be able to enjoy sleep and falling asleep. That makes sense. So okay. Number 4 here, wake up at the same time every day, regardless of how much time you slept, and make sure to get out of bed within a 10 to 15-minute window. Ooh,
So this comes into play a lot when people let themselves, whether it's a school or a job, where they say, my time is the weekend time and I can do what I want.
yeah.
It just makes it harder for you during the week if you don't follow the sleep rules. Again, if you're the best sleeper ever and you don't want to listen to us, great. But if you want kind of that clue to maybe something that you're doing that's keeping you locked into a bad stimulus control type of cycle, that's one of those things.
Yep, absolutely. I would say this is, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, this is one of the single most important things you can do. And I would say for a lot of my clients, that means actually scheduling activities that require you to have a commitment or to meet other people in the morning. So, for example, you might meet a friend for coffee. You might do an early morning exercise group. You might call a
Might get a puppy.
Exactly. You might do something that forces you to get up and get out of bed and get started with your day, regardless of how you slept. Because that's a key part to this, is that this is how you're going to kind of reset, your body. Um, so yes, I would.
And for those of you that are listening that just need to know, like, this is my problem. Like, I definitely have one of these things. If I don't have to be up, I don't want to be up. And oftentimes this I will break. And it does not benefit you at the end of the day, but you can't fix it later. You just have to acknowledge and do better the next time.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what you're doing with sleep. Sleep is not I slept horrible one night, so it's going to be horrible the night in front. It's a cumulative experience. So that's why, and I'll do another plug here. I love smart light bulbs for this reason. I love simulating sunrises. I do it at my house. Like it's a great, it's I even have my kid does, I do it for my kid too. But, because there is something really nice about waking up with light bringing you up and you get out of bed. All right, number 5 here, last one here. Do not nap. Why do you think do not napping is such an important thing here?
I mean, I use the analogy of if sleep is your bank and human adults get somewhere between 6 and 8 hours of sleep, and again, it might be closer to 6 or 7 hours as you get older. If you use up some of that money in the bank and you use it up in the day, that is going to be subtracted from the sleep that you're going to be able to get at night.
You got it. Ding, ding, ding. This is why I would say if you had a nap, set it to a maximum 25, 30 minutes, set an alarm. Do not do more than that. Like you
There's an exception. Okay. I will tell you medically, there is an exception. If you are under the age of 5 and you are over the age of 65, there's actually a reason that you might not get all of your sleep at night, that a nap in the day is not only like recommended, but it is physiologic, that it's almost a requirement.
Mhm.
But if you start having sleep problems, that nap is where you shorten your sleep time, not you stay up later or you get up earlier. So it still means it's the one that's going to be decreased if you have to restrict any of your time, but it is very much allowed. So the person who gets 6 or 7 hours of sleep and then maybe they're not sleeping the entire time but feels terrible during the day, they can nap.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so just to recap for all of our listeners, 5 things about the part 2 of CBTI session 2, part 2. Number 1, go to bed only when you're sleepy, not just fatigued or tired. Number 2, if you're unable to sleep, get out of bed and return to your bed only when you're sleepy. Number 3, use the bedroom just for sleep and sex. Number 4, wake up at the same time every day, regardless of how much you slept, and get out of bed within 10 to 15 minutes. And number 5, do not nap. Whew, Michelle, that's a lot.
Guys are all fixed.
Yep. We don't even need to go for any further. No need to do session 3 next time. Although I'll tell you why, we're going to do session 3 next time. Um, because there is relevance to, I will say this, the part, if you can do these 5 key things that we just kind of talked about, you are likely going to resolve a good amount of your sleep disruption if it was primary insomnia. There's more that we're going to go over, but I would say those 5 key things, that's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So,
Yeah, but now you're starting to like recognize the rules, and then we have to kind of tie it together with the thoughts and the behaviors
mm,
that work on getting you better sleep.
yeah, so next time, session 3, we're going to start talking about the cognitive part of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which this is where the things that we think in our minds and the actions that we do, our behaviors, they have a direct role. And then I was chatting with Michelle earlier. After we do that session, it won't be probably within this sequence, but later we're going to do an ultimate anxiety guide episode where we're just going to do all things anxiety, because almost every one of you with sleep difficulties from an primary insomnia perspective have anxiety too. Not, I would say it's a very high percentage of overlap. So,
And
so
if you don't have it
anxiety,
now, you might in the future. So might want to know how to deal with it.
exactly. Yes, we're gonna give you the ultimate guide to it. So, okay, all right, Michelle, it's so good seeing you. I love us talking about this stuff. So,
Good to see you too. All right. Until next time, Sleep Nation, please write to us if you have any ideas of something that you want us to go over or a product that you'd like us to review. And if you want to support the podcast, go on and that subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or on the Buzzsprout account. Everything will link back to Buzzsprout. So if you just want to go to one spot, go to Buzzsprout.
yep. All right, all right. Take care, Sleep Nation.
All right. Bye.